Wow, I just trashed a mint lesson because I'd lost track during the middle of it. Because when you start doing them back to back, you like recording, takes that you're not going to use. You forget what you said in the second one, the first one, in the middle. Anyways, hi everybody. Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Method here. Got the fretboard. You can't see me, whatever. You don't want to see me. Um, I want to get you through the blues today, and I want to do it in a way that doesn't take like 2 hours. So I'm gonna make it like an hour long lesson. Got that recorded. So let's go as like let me just get you right like into the basics here. So if you want to play the blues, you want a trick to get through. I've explained it all, but playing the changes, telling a story, give you the deep explanation in my 50-minute lesson. But if you want to just get into it, make yourself a blues storyboard. Where do you find this thing? You put your take your blues key. Someone say, hey, ask the band if you go up on blues night, what is the key? They'll say, okay, it's B flat. So that is our example here is B flat. So okay, B flat. So find B flat on your A string to especially this key in this example I'm showing you actually works well for this. You have to remember should you be in another key and then this is in an undesirable spot. It won't be, but I mean maybe it's not as comfortable a place to play it where I'm going to show you today. There are different positions you can learn to play this, but today I want to get you in the door because what you're going to do with this practice session is hear what's going on underneath your fingers, what's coming out of your fingers, and go, oh, this is playing the changes. This is telling the story with the blues. So here's what it is. So we're going to play the changes and tell a story. So if I wanted to tell a story over the 5 chord, I'm going to find it. Okay, here's my B flat of a 1. All right, it's this chord. Basic one that you know, the bar chord from the 5 string. Okay, so I'm going to use this shape down here. My root is on the 13th fret of the A string, so my 5 down here is on the 13th fret of the E string. So we've got the 3, the 2, and the root. And that middle note there, which is also blue because you use it with the 3. Oh boy, that blues sound. Yeah, that's our first blues playground that helps us start telling a story. So even without that note, we can tell a story because these notes are dancing around the chord tone with one step in it. So it instantly tells the listener we are just that. We're dancing around a dominant 7th chord by playing and we don't even have the dominant 7th note in there, but we can add it in if we add that purple note in there. So here we are. So you can hear just by the way you pick, you're not going. I mean, you could, but I mean, there's all kinds of little ways you could tell some kind of story. Well, let's add to that story. We've only got one. We're a one-trick pony with that 3rd in there, so we need kind of only really one more thing because it. Remember, these chords don't last very long, so we're going to take the 6 there and the 7, which is the cream-colored note and the purple note. Well, the basics we need to know: the cream-colored note is great, excellent note. It stands out on its own as an other note, a go-to place, and the turnaround place. You can go there and come back. And you can go from there to the 3, 6 to 3. All kinds of things. Very versatile note there, but it gets its soul from the 7. So if you add it with the 7, it's always great. It's like a little it's a little partnership, just the same way that 3rd is with the 3, and it adds your second blues playground there. So you go, oh, that blues sound. So ruined it with the one note there, but you can just hear how boy that 6 really just really screams out with that 7 in conjunction. So there's your second playground. Now there is a third playground we talked about, I think, earlier, but I don't know if we talked about it. I mentioned it because I did in my other lessons. But the 4, you can add the 4 in, but I personally only use that on its own as its own riff. If I've done this blues, this is very cliche now, but it's always going to get you through and sound cool, so that's why it's cliche. So you can do that, and if I've done that and I've milked the 6 and I've still got a little bit some other statement to make before the next chord, I might try this 4 and go with a 4 and the 7 together. Somewhere in there, that sounds cool to me. And it's its own kind of statement. It's a little bit more like, I don't know, downtown blues. It's more of a nicer blues. It's not as like a raunchy blues or a wail and cry blues. It's just more of a little bit, just like a little bit, rainy day blues. I don't know. You can explain it any way. Give it any poetic thing you want, but it's got its own sound, and it doesn't sound good in conjunction with the other tricks to me. And it's your choice to do what you want with, but you'll find out why they say, some people, just avoid the 4. Well, that's not necessarily true, as everybody will tell you, but you can see here where that's coming from. The 4 is going to be like, the 4, what I'm noticing is like scales, these groups of notes will have a lot of expression, and when you want to kind of mellow out the expression and just create a staircase to another level that doesn't have any characters, just simple steps anybody can take up and down, then it's more boring. Then there's less character, and that's what happens when you add in these, simple steps to the major scale. The 4 definitely, to me, has this nulling effect, which is cool, but it's not in the blues unless you give it you know how to give it a little special treatment. So now we're going to the 4, though. This is the big deal here. We've got to make changes, and the notes for the 4 are in a different place than the notes for the 3. So can we make a playground that is totally connected to what we're doing? Our fingers are already there, so it doesn't even matter. Yes. This brown note is this yellow note. The root becomes the 5. You can see the green note is the same green note, just to ground the shape. And I'm going to call this like the diamond or the plus. So I know that after a bit, I'm going, that 4 chord's coming. I got to get ready to go. But I can also start in the gray. Sometimes I've done that. And as long as I slide into that 7 and start the musical ringing on the beat with these chord tones, then it sounds cool. Now, from there, you have a couple of notes. It goes by quick. It doesn't last long, but you might want to know some blues playground, and you also might want to know what intervals you're playing. So you've got the green, the brown, the blue, and the purple, like our standard explanation of intervals. So you can see that this is the root, the 3rd, 7. So you can get used to why that sounds good. Okay, I'm going 7, 7, root, bouncing on that 3rd with the root. It's tried and true, foolproof. And then throwing a 5 in there. So there's now that you got that, how you can play a ground with just the plus sign, but then we've got our blues, our tasty blues playground up here going. So that'll come into play at certain areas, and now I'm going but the 1 chord is coming back quick, so I've got to get ready to get back to the 1 chord and not get stung by this bee that's flying around me while I try to make this lesson. All right, so you go to the vortex anytime that 1 chord is coming back and you're coming back from the 4. All you got to remember is you want to step back from one of these yellow notes right into the center. I went from the top in. That works, even though it's not a neighbor. It's kind of from a couple of tones away. It's a root going to a third. So it works like we just talked about. These ones work good because they're, or even an enclosure or a backwards enclosure. All works good. So you can hear. Okay. So you can hear all that works. And you just got to get back to that. If you're up here, you go. And it doesn't sound that great on it. Sounds kind of dumb on its own, but when the chord is changing and you did that over the 4, sorry, and then it's going to the, it walks you right in the door to do that and sounds cool over the chords that are changing. So I got a star on the bottom note. That'll be up to you. It's a possibility, but it's a little more tricky, I find, to make that work, to make it sound good. So not too bad. Got an interesting little sound to it. I mean, you can literally just this is you. This is where you just come up with your own things. Nothing is good or bad per se, really. It's, do you want to include that or not, and can you make it work, even in some kind of context too. So right here, eventually, now we're going to go to the 5 chord. We got to go from the 1 to the 5, but it's really the same thing as going to the 4. So we don't. The number one thing is we don't need another shape. We're only going to be playing the same exact diamond for the 5 up with the same kind of. And when you go down to the 4 chord, you can just simply slide that and play the same thing. So you can hear, like, I went from the 4, then I went to the 5, and played enough notes to where it would sound like, hey, I think that's where the 1 is supposed to come in, and then we cater to that, and we're going to get to what that is. So, so we know that when that 5 comes, it's the same thing. We can walk it up there too from the 1, and that would be this little trick right here. So for the 5 chord, it's the same concept, slid up a whole step. And here are both of those chords, the 4 and the 5, both diamonds together. You can see they share one note there on the 14th or 16th fret. Well, 13, 14, 15, 16. You can see if you play it like a harmony there. And I've got the arrow going both ways because you can, from the 1 going to the 5, you could hit and be right on the 5 beat right there. That sounds alright. And then when the 5 is going to the 4, or you can play the top line or the bottom or any of the diamond shapes. All of those will work walking from the 5 to the 4 on the beat. And amongst other things, but but that'll get you in the door right on the money, on all the money notes. Easy peasy, with no super hard to imagine tricks, all simple visualizations. So that was the goal of today's teaching. So once you're back down to the 4, you've only got a couple of notes to get to the 1, and you might want to, I like to wrap it up. I like to just go. That gets me right, that plugs me back into I walked up into the 1 chord. I spent the remaining bit of the 4 chord going, and then beat 1 of chord 1 went right along with that in theory. So, and that sounds pretty good. So when I'm there, my finger is where the R is on the diagram, G string, 15th fret. And so what I'm going to do there is then get ready to play this little blues cliche. So what I'd like to tell you about finally is this turnaround concept, and how I could never understand this because people call this a turnaround, and now I'm looking at it like, oh, I see. I think that terminology is dumb. I'm sorry, but calling that a turnaround is just very for a beginner. You don't. What's turning around? Am I turning something around there? Is my visualization turning around? All to me now, I'm seeing that it means is you're at the end of that progression and it's going back to the one. It's a fancy way of saying we're going back to the one. Nothing is really turning around or doing anything special. Just the progression is wrapping up. It's going back on itself. You've gone back to the one. And then it's going to spend a little bit of time back on the final thing it's going to do is go to that 5. And then you're back again. So 5, 4, 1. You're ending the 4 and you got to do a little catering to the 1. So that last 1 chord as it progressive. Now, the progression is done, the fun is done. That chord is kind of boring for its 4 beats, so you give it a little parlor trick. And this is very cliche, and you don't have to do this. You could be noodling in the tones that work over the 1 chord if you want. Totally doable. You'll find other ways to avoid using this, but if you just want to get through with a cool the typical cliche parlor trick, you start with the where that 1 chord dominant chord was that we've been playing over, and you're starting with the what is that, the 5 and the 3, and ending with the 3rd in the root. So you're a little bit farther away from the actual tonality with the 5 and the 3. It's making a strong suggestion that you're playing the 1 and then you nail it. It sort of doesn't matter what those in between notes are. They're just walking down to where you need to go. And gets you to the really, says, okay, 1 chord, 3. But we're not done yet. We've got that. We got to get to that 5, so we're going to sign off the whole progression by outlining the 5, and it's pretty easy to get through the basics. Here's where it comes from. You put this purple chord is up on the 11th fret, dominant. It's just a version of it's the 5 chord dominant, and so it's one of the fingerings of it. And the gray note shows where I might come from. It's down a little low. I might go. And what we're talking about is right after this. And that was me going from the green 12 to the purple 14. And that gives you the, the 3 in the root again of the 5. So once again, we're signaling that, we're just making a nice couple of, we're ringing off the chord of the moment really quick to just kind of make a statement there, show we are on the changes, and the audience is going for that. That's what people are pretty much listening for, on top of you making that as tasty as you can, all these basics. But so the 10 to the 12. So I'll play it all. So you can go, or just wait a second on the beat, and then that little orange HP's hammer on pull off. I love doing that. It's probably pretty cliche and could probably get annoying if you do that every time you turn around. So use that sparingly, and maybe you'll find you won't. There's obviously other things you can do. That's probably the most basic to get your ears where you need to be and keep your hands in this. Then you're ready right there to go 1 step up and you're back in your 1 shape. So now it's yours to go around this progression and find out where you like to put that blues thing and see how you can throw that in almost anywhere on the progression. In the context, in the chords, in the right the right playground, and you get a story for each chord that's catering to each chord, and so that's all of a sudden you are, because you're catering to each chord, you're telling a story, and you're story timing each chord because you're putting those little ragtime bags in there. Change. There's the change. 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 Stepping into the third there, and then the ride down. Cater to the 5. And hammer on your back. So I hope you get the blues. Well, I don't hope you get the blues, but I hope you get the blues. I don't know, never mind. Anyways, check out the merch store like we talked about earlier. I hope I talked about earlier. That might have been the other one I recorded. So if you didn't, there's a great merch store. If I didn't talk about it, check it out. T-shirts, everything. Things based on some prints that are geared toward an image for mind's eye visual guitar. And there's a whole bunch of random other stuff there that I think is kind of cool. Camping, sloths, some funny shirts. So check it out. I think you'll like it. All the proceeds go to helping this channel survive, helping me survive. And it is pertinent. And I don't know what to say, but there's the Buy Me a Coffee thing. Deserves a special thank you once again to Stephen from the UK, or Stefan, sorry, Stefan from the UK. Couldn't thank you enough for finding out that little surprise tip in the jar. And so maybe other people will follow along. I don't know. I have no idea, whatever to say during this thing, that whole, be creative, but trying to say like and subscribe and stuff like that. So you guys know what to do. Let's make this lesson as quick as possible, and I'll get the hell out of here. Heck out of here. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. You're awesome. Have a great day.